Oh, forgot to add myself into the call then. That was incredible. I'm sitting there going, hello, and nobody's here. That's because I've not added myself to the call yet. Unbelievable stuff. StreamYard amateurism, if you like. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, as always, for joining me and continuing to support the channel. It means a lot, as always. Thank you ever so much for watching this morning's show and the 8 a.m.s as per. Today we're going to be doing a phone-in show. We haven't done one of these in a little while. We haven't caught up with each other in a little spell. The last one we did, I think, was a couple of weeks ago now. It was kind of focused in on the ticket situation as well. We might touch upon that some more today. But there's also, we're going to open up the floor as well to some other topics to get your thoughts on things that are going on with the club at the moment. I'm going to read you through the rules of this phone-in show ever so shortly, and I'm going to kind of give you a bit of a monologue, perhaps to inspire some of you to jump on and give your thoughts on a number of the trending topics surrounding the club at the moment, who, of course, sit top of the Premier League table, regardless of what happens in the other Premier League results tonight. Before we go anywhere, let's say good morning, good evening, good afternoon to those joining us in our chat box. Wesley, hello to you. Bakary Lasagna, we've got Rancid, we've got Nav, we've got Screenboy, we've got the Bushman, we've got Gooner, we've got Gooner76, we've got Olawale, we've got Abe, George, we've got Emmanuel, Bradley, Iganoba as well. Apologies for my pronunciation's terrible. Alex, good morning to you. Good afternoon. Amira, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. So the rules are pretty simple. I'm going to start throwing in the StreamYard link to the live chat box here on YouTube, where you guys can then click that and then use that to join into today's show. There are very simple rules to doing so. You need to be obviously over the age of 18. You need a webcam and you need a quiet place to record as well. This is a family show to a degree, and so you can bear that in mind when contributing to things as well. But thank you to everyone that continues to do so. I think from my perspective, Arsenal are in a really, really good place. But there are obviously things that are, I think, pestering the minds of Arsenal fans somewhat. The Raya Ramsdale situation continues to divide supporters. Who should start at the weekend? Ramsdale, of course, has been pretty much ostracised from the team, albeit for cup performances. And David Raya seems to be untouchable in that position, but made some key mistakes in the game against Luton. But is it the right decision to start Ramsdale? Would that then completely shatter Raya's confidence? You can see how confusing it is, getting confused between the two names of the players. And then we've got to have a little bit of a chat, I think, maybe about Kai Havertz and people's thoughts on Kai Havertz as well, because Kai Havertz has, I think, proven a lot of people wrong in the short term more recently, but obviously needs to do more in the long term to convince the wider fan base and perhaps prove wrong a lot of those that decided it was fine to drop in some abuse. We've still got, obviously, the ticket situation that is plaguing some fan discussions online still, with fans struggling to get hold of tickets across the festive period. That said, I did notice that for the game against Sevilla in the Champions League, and I think the game against Lens in the Champions League, there was a lot of tickets that went up very close to kick off on the ticket exchange. And if there is all these tickets going up on the ticket exchange, is it really that hard to get hold of tickets at the moment? I've dropped a link into today's video description. If you would like to join us, all you need to do is click that link and you can hop on. As I said, you need to be over the age of 18. You need to have a camera, ideally a webcam. Otherwise, I can't get you on because I have to obviously... It's a way of basically vetting people into a degree. I can't do it all. I'm not perfect. This isn't a radio show with producers galore, but there is a link in the video description, and there is a link in the chat box if you'd like to join. But until we get some callers in, of course, I'm quite happy to do what I usually do every day, which is talk to myself and to you guys in the chat box as well. If you aren't confident enough to jump on the show, of course, please do leave your thoughts in the comment section, and we can use those to spark some discussion as well. Bakary says, no uglies. It's what you're saying. No, I want the webcam, please, because it does help us to give us a little bit of a gauge to make sure that we have got everybody that is over 18. You know, that when you go into like a newsagent's and it says, are you over the age of 25? Because we will not serve you if you don't look like you are. We've got a very, very similar situation as well. Let's go into this chat box then whilst we await some callers who want to discuss anything and everything. And I think that when it comes to talking specifically about Arsenal and the ticket situation, and also, of course, Kai and, of course, Raya and Ramsdale as well, it is splitting the fan base. It almost feels as though, I don't know about you, but it feels like the fan base loves to be divided on things. First of all, it was Arsene Wenger. Was it Arsene Wenger's time to leave? Was it a time to renew his contract? So long. The Cronkies, Unai Emery, and now Mikel Arteta, of course, as well, have always seemed to have this division as well, which is really frustrating. I'd love to see a situation where we could be united on so many different topics. I think there is, and we have certainly shifted to a position where we can be united on the fact that Arsenal are clearly moving in a really positive direction. And we've got a manager, of course, that has done the right thing. And has continued to do the right thing regarding what his decisions have been making with the team. Maybe not perfect, maybe not completely perfect. You know, the Raya Ramsdale situation is probably a situation whereby I think we could probably do a bit better than we have done in the past. But, you know, when it comes to Arsenal and perfection, we can't really expect every decision to be right, because even Man City, as we witnessed last night, make mistakes with their team selections, with their choices of signings. I don't know about you, but I've not been that impressed with the Mateus Nunes. I've not been that impressed with Mateo Kovacic either. I've not been impressed with Pep Guardiola's selections for some games, and in particular yesterday either. Caesar says, debate of the day. I'm going to go on the call in to convince Tom to grow out his hair and beard. I mean, that would be fantastic if you could convince me to do that, because I can't see it happening. A, because I do want to keep my missus. Yeah, and she's not the biggest fan of long hair. The beard, she's just about, and I did a little, you know, shave today, but no, I can't see that happening anytime soon. Let's bring in our first caller of the day. We're joined by Ben Miller. How are we doing, Ben? You good? You well?
All right, Tom. How you doing? Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. I'm not using headphones, which is really irritating because it's. I believe this or not, I managed to leave them on the train on the way home for the game the other day. So I'm
Yeah,
away.
I've got my missus in, so yeah.
Fine, I can hear you loud and clear. What have you called in to discuss with me today, Ben?
Controversial one about the ticket issue like the other week. You know, about international fans. Let's call them. I won't call them tourist fans. Just a few things. Like, have you been to many? Like, obviously, you go in the press box and that. Before you did that, did you go to many away games?
Yes, I did.
Right. Okay. So, would you say the atmosphere was better away or at the Emirates?
I think the collection of fans, it's probably the best way to put it is to say that a larger proportion of fans who go to the away games sing louder and sing more prominently than the proportion you would say of those at the Emirates would probably be an accurate description.
Why do you think that is?
I think because when you go to away games, you're in a situation where you're kind of the little guy. You know, you're a situation where the crowd and the home crowd outnumbers you significantly, and so there's obviously a greater incentive to be much louder. Whereas when you're at the Emirates, there's a lot of people around you that are singing and some people that aren't, and it doesn't have that same level of encouragement of the domino effect, if you like, when you're in that smaller situation. So I think that's probably a big reason as to why. Yeah.
Would you think a lot of the reason might be it's regular people that go all the time, know each other, comfortable with each other? Do you know what I mean? Sort of.
The away system obviously promotes the fact that a lot more people that have been going for longer are able to get those tickets, doesn't it? Because you need to have credits to go to those away games. So yeah, for sure. I think that's probably pays us. That's definitely going to be a part of it. Yeah.
Cool. So can I read you something quickly?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Le Grove?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is on Le Grove. This is a quote from him. So he says tourist fans. That's his words, not mine. Okay. I'll say international fans.
Not a great start.
No. Right. So this is his quote. He goes, so hear me out here. First timers should be welcome. I am a tourist fan myself, and I should be welcome because I write all these blogs, yada, yada. But you cannot ignore the reality of what newness brings, unfamiliarity. Arsenal are not the same as it used to be for me. I don't sing because I don't know anyone in the section. It's just different. That doesn't make me less of a fan. It's just my reality. If you're a tourist fan, stop complaining on Twitter. You're the same as regulars because you're not. That doesn't mean that you don't care or you aren't passionate. It just means you don't fully get the vibe because you are new. And I think that is quite fair. Like, I don't get the whole stop moaning on Twitter. It's not the way to put things. But this geezer, he's like an international fan, and he feels that way.
Did he write it on Twitter? That
it's it's on his actual.
Was it a part of his blog?
Yeah, on his blog. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not against international fans at all. Like, some of the comments I put on the other video might have come across a bit wrong, But I just feel like I've been to American sports. I think they're very different to us. But I think the main thing is to find a solution to it all. So, what would you think about every first cup game of the season, whether it be Carabao, FA Cup, Champions League, maybe at home, you get, say, 10,000 tickets. This is every season, 10,000 tickets allocated to international fan groups. So they know they're definitely getting that. So what my thinking is, do you remember when the Reds first came out, the Red membership? I lived down in Bournemouth. I was going to like League Cup games on a Tuesday night against Hull in the snow. Not because I especially wanted to go. Obviously, I'll watch Arsenal whenever I can. But you did that because you had to build up credits. You had to think, do you know what? When I first got my Red, I was like, I'll be lucky if I get 3-4 games a season. I did those and I built up the credits. So what I'm saying with this is if you did that, 10,000 tickets allocated that's guaranteed for every first cup game. Obviously, we've got to have a home cup game. And then what they do, they almost build up credits. And with that ticket, they get a WSL ticket that week, an under-21 ticket that week. And then you're building up the WSL fans and it's just everything Arsenal.
So just to get it clear, want 10,000.
Well, that was just a figure. I don't know how much these groups have, but 5,000, 2,000, 10,000. I don't know, but they have guaranteed got those. They don't have to ballot for them. They've got them. Do you know what I mean? And then you give them a WSL ticket, and they're incorporating and they're learning more, but not learning more about. So that's patronising, but getting the vibe of Arsenal. Do you see what I mean?
I see where you're coming from. The issue I've got is that it's this whole definition of loyalty that is giving some supporters like apparently a greater call or kind of dibs to a ticket over somebody else. And I don't agree with that because I think that anyone who is an Arsenal fan, whether they come from 5 minutes down the road from the Emirates or that have been going to the Emirates for the last 10 years or have been, had a season ticket for the last 20, 30 years, is as entitled to go to a game as somebody who wants to go to their first game.
They'd be getting their game and they wouldn't have to worry about, am I going to get a ticket? You're getting your ticket 100%. You've got it. And then I just think from that, then they could build up credit. So you could say maybe, I don't know, after two, 3 cup games you've got, then you can start going in for league games. Do you see what I mean?
But this strategy is for just new fans, not even necessarily if they're abroad. Just somebody who wants to go to their first game.
Yeah, I think maybe you could do it. It doesn't have to be just because you're from abroad. But I think the international fans, they would have to be guaranteed their tickets, set a certain amount by for them. I don't know what amount, but I just think because that's what I had to do and what everyone had to do. Eventually, like League Cup games weren't my priority on a Tuesday night in the snow. But I think, well, if I go to that, then there's a chance I might get a league game. I didn't just jump straight in and get league games. It was kind of just working. So I'm just trying to think of a solution for it.
No, of course. I'm all for finding solutions to kind of appease as many people as possible. I don't think that's not even necessarily where me and you differ in terms of, a disagreement. It seemed like the issue that, because I think obviously, did you leave a comment? You left a comment on one of my previous videos, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So
mine was mainly saying I think American sports are very culturally different to us. They don't have the tribalism. Their fans all mix in together. Like I said, I think I said on one of the comments, I went to watch Brooklyn Nets against Cleveland Cavaliers a few years back. LeBron was in town. The Brooklyn Nets fans were stood up applauding his every point. Imagine doing that at football. Harry Kane just scored against us. Do you know what I mean?
But that's not going to be a representation of everyone.
No. I get that, but I think, and like LeGros said in his thing, and like he is an international fan and he knows his stuff, and he's saying it's about fully getting the vibe as well. Do you see what I mean? So I think if these international fans had been to a League Cup game, they know sort of they're more familiar with it. Do you know what I mean? Rather than dropping them straight in a nice game against Man United when we need the crowd like badly. We've seen the difference it can make. And I just think if you put them in, it's nothing against them. It's just the fact it's new. Do you know what I mean? It's like if I went to my first, I was going to be like, oh, what's all this about? Do you know what I mean? It's just like he said,
But
regularity.
I think the undermining of the argument is that obviously not all fans. I mean, I've just seen a comment in the chat box from an account called "Don't Worry About It." It says, "I support the Nets and I didn't do that." I mean, that's the issue. Is that obviously you've seen an
Probably
example
made
of
the
what one
worst
fan has
example.
done. No, I know,
Yeah.
but it's just like it's the generalization that I have an issue with, because I just think that like you mentioned American fans. I think obviously it's all supporters that around the world want a ticket to Arsenal. You know, I
Yeah.
have found that blog from Le Grove, you know, and just to read those for those that didn't hear it, I think now I've read it back to myself again. It's not a great paragraph. He says, "So hear me out here. First timers should be welcome. I'm a tourist fan myself, and I should be welcome because I write all these free blocks." I mean, I don't really agree with that. I think that's a bit
No,
entitled.
that's
But you
nonsense.
cannot ignore the reality of what newness brings: unfamiliarity. Arsenal ain't the same as it used to be for me. I don't sing because I don't know anyone in the section. It's just different. That doesn't make me less of a fan. It's just my reality. If you're a tourist fan, stop complaining on Twitter. You're the same as regulars because you're not. That doesn't mean you don't care or you aren't passionate. It just means you don't fully get the vibe because you are new. Now,
That's what I think. It's
well,
more.
and look, you're entitled to that opinion, as is LeGros for having that opinion. But I know
Mine's meant.
supporters that
It's
have
meant with.
go
Sorry,
on.
it's mine's meant with no malice, nothing like that. Because to be honest with you, we need the international fans. Look how big we are now. You know,
Yeah.
so we need them. I fully appreciate that. It's just trying to find a better way. To be honest with you, Arsenal messed up with this ballot thing.
Are you a season ticket holder, Ben, or a
No,
member?
no.
Or...
I used to have a silver. So years back, I knew a bloke from around here who had a silver membership. He couldn't go anymore, so I took it over in his name. He then moved abroad, so I contacted Arsenal. I said, "Can I change it into my name, this address?" No, it'll get
Yeah,
taken
no,
off
you
you.
won't be able
So
to do that.
yeah, then I went. But I used to get quite a few tickets off Aaron Ramsey and do you know the used to be the head chef Robert Fagg?
I don't know. No.
Oh, he
So
was
I mean,
he
yeah.
lived around the corner. So
How do you
yeah,
get tickets now if you go to a game? Have you got a membership or not? No.
ballot, ballot.
Ballot. Okay.
Like this season, I've applied for 8 and I've got 2, and then I
Right.
know someone who lives in Bournemouth who's applied for 8 and got 8.
Right. Yeah. And it's,
Mm,
you know, because, and I think that the ballot system is, as I've said before, not perfect. And
mm,
like for someone who's got 8 out of 8 on their ballots, you know, I don't think that's necessarily fair, because I think there should be a
mm.
cool down system on the ballot. So when you get a ticket for a game, you don't
Yeah,
then get to enter for the next 2 or 3 games or whatever,
yeah,
and then
third
let other
game along
people
or
go.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's the fairest way to do it. What I don't think is fair is saying that if you're a first time supporter going into the ballot, that you should have a less of a chance than someone that's gone for that's quote unquote a regular, because I just don't
Or
think that's how it works.
what about if you were first timer? Then you can't. You can only apply for Cat C and B games. The Cat A games, the
But I don't
Liverpools, the
think that's
Man United.
fair, mate. Like that's my problem with it. I just don't think that's
Well,
fair.
that's what, but that's what we all had to do to build our credits up back in the day. Do you know what I mean? We had to.
Yeah, I know, but it's not. We're not back in the day anymore now. Like
No,
it's
I know.
2023, and the fan base has expanded to a level that's allowed Arsenal to become the competitive club that we all love going to. You know, that
Mm,
expansion of the fan base that's come with the territory of football growing as a sport, as Arsenal growing as a club, has led to that expansion and the greater, you know, appreciation or support that it gets. And so, therefore, you know, we're not a side that is, you know, built into the fabric of North London in that same way. It's now a
mm,
global institution, is what it is. And whilst that for everybody that's been going for their entire life, you know, that had the, I always use the term luck, because it was luck that some people were born in North London, and it was luck
yeah.
that you were born at a certain time, and that's the only reason you got to go to games back then. And you know, people didn't control where and when they were born, but
Mm.
and because of that, I feel that it's the case that people should have an equal chance to go to any Arsenal game over anybody else, or rather, not over
Do
anybody
you
else.
do you think if you put that to international fans, like you're getting these tickets for a League Cup game and you get a WSL ticket, under 21 ticket, do you think they'd go for that? Or
I don't know. You'd have to ask. I know that some won't. You know, I know certainly some
what?
that won't.
Because they just want the big games.
I can't speak for all, you know,
Mm,
foreign fans, but I know that certainly friends of mine that go to supporters club want to go. If they want to go to a game, you know, they feel they should be able to go to any game as much as anybody else, because they love the club as much as anybody
mm,
else. You know,
yeah.
so
But I do
you know.
like the Grove. I don't agree with everything you said, but I do agree with that. Regularity brings a better atmosphere. It does.
I
Like if
think
you,
if you've got, I think it would be naive of me to sit here and say that if somebody is going to the ground as a first time fan, or if not first time fan, a first time attendee at the Emirates, that they're going to be able to produce as much noise as someone that's going, for the last 10 years, because that person who's been going for 10 years will be more familiar with the chants, will be more familiar with the songs, maybe more comfortable with the people around them to make noise as well. It'd be naive of me to say that somebody for the first time going there might not be as confident to sing or be as able to sing as those others. However, the improvement in the atmosphere in the stadium should not be a reason to shut off the opportunity for some fans to go.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of the atmosphere this season as well, I just think it's improved now, but I think the style of football we were playing as well. Exciting football makes you excited. You want to see, do you know what I mean? Where we've been a bit sort of industrial, I think that could have affected it. Do you know what I mean?
I think that it's more to do with the expectation this season.
Yeah.
I think that last season,
it was all new last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, we all rode the wave of excitement and surprise that Arsenal were in a title race. And this season, we're expecting Arsenal to compete for the title. So if we're not beating Burnley after 20 minutes, we're annoyed, because we've not, we're Arsenal Football Club. We should be challenging for the title. Any team that comes here other than City or Liverpool, we should be battering straight away, So that's kind of my position on that side of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Shall I tell you one other thing I think could kill atmospheres? VAR. It's horrible. People just sat around, and with like, I know it is always there with celebrating the goal you like, but now it's so micro scrutinized. It's like, and people stood around for 5-10 minutes. I think it just annoys people. It kills a bit of. Do you know what I mean? It's a tough one.
I don't like VAR as much as the next guy. I think it ruins the situation. I think the sin bin idea is ridiculous as well. I've been reflected upon that. VAR is completely taking away any excitement of a goal.
The atmosphere last season to this year is just night and day. It's just mad.
Yeah. Look, Ben, I appreciate you jumping on. This comment from KSS who says, this is a great call. Ben has some interesting ideas. I don't know if I agree, but props to him for coming on and trying to come with solutions. And that's what I think we didn't get on the last show. We didn't get it. Just felt like a lot of xenophobic kind of tendencies coming through. And
but I just think with ballot aside, whatever, international fans, I think when they do land a ticket, I think they should include with it a WSL ticket and an under-21 ticket, so they get a whole. You're not just flying over for one day. You're getting like a week of football, really, aren't you? And I just think that'd improve the WSL attendances and everything.
No, I think the WSL has done exceptionally well, recently with tickets. They're selling out very, very well. So I think we might even get to a situation where people start moaning they can't get tickets for the WSL.
But I just think it'd be nice if, like you said, they're spending $1,000 on a flight. They're not just coming over watching the game and going, you think, oh, I've got that, and I've got the game on Tuesday and a Thursday game. Do you know what I mean? It's just the whole thing. But yeah, that's just sort of my opinion on it, really.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. No, Ben, I really appreciate your time jumping on the show and having a chat.
Yeah. All right, Tom. Good to speak to you anyway.
Likewise, mate. Have a good one.
Cheers, mate. See you soon. Bye.
Massive appreciation for Ben for jumping on. We've got a lot of gaps on the calls, so if you ring in, you will get on. I'm telling you that now. So go and join the link. I've put plenty of those links into the YouTube chat box. So if you'd like to come on and talk about, you can respond to the ticket things. Maybe you're a fan from abroad and you've listened to some of the things that we've been talking about here, and you've been listening to some of the shows we've done previously, and you want to give your view on why you think you deserve a ticket as much as anybody who lives very close to the Emirates. Or maybe you want to change things entirely in terms of what we're talking about. Raya and Ramsdale. Who would you start this weekend? Why should that player start this weekend? You tell me. I want to hear your thoughts. And not only that, but Kai Havertz. Has Kai Havertz surprised you this season? If you want to get on the show, then all you need to do is jump in and click that link that I'm constantly spamming at you in our YouTube live comment section. You click that link, all you need to be is over the age of 18 with a webcam, and you can hop on and have a chat as well. Boston here says, gatekeeping is wrong. I paid $600 for New York's preseason game to support my team. I would hate to fly all the way to the Emirates and be denied a chance to watch a live games because I'm from the US. And this is where I can't help but agree. And it shouldn't be a negative thing, to want to agree with these points of view. Fans from abroad, in my opinion, have as much of a right as anybody else. What I'm going to do is just... I'm glad that Ben brought it up. I know Luke Grove. I've never really spoken to Pedro at all, but I've now been made aware of this blog that came up. And goodness me, I think it's quite detached, if I'm being very, very honest. I think it's pretty detached indeed. Just going to read you this paragraph again. Hear me out. First timers should be welcome. I'm a tourist fan myself, and I should be welcome because I write all these free blogs. I mean, that's a bit strange. But you cannot ignore the reality of what newness brings, unfamiliarity. Arsenal ain't the same as it used to be for me. I don't sing because I don't know anyone in the section. It's just different. That doesn't make me less of a fan. It's just my reality. If you're a tourist fan, stop complaining on Twitter you're the same as regulars, because you're not. That doesn't mean that you don't care or aren't as passionate. It just means that you don't fully get the vibe because that you are new. I have such an issue with that. Such an issue with that. Anyway, let's get on our next caller. It's always a pleasure to speak to him. It's Elliot. Elliot, how you doing, my friend? You good? You well?
I am well, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. I can't see you for some reason. I can see part of you on the bottom bit, but for some reason your screen's gone black. I don't know why. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you, but let me come out of the studio and come back, and then.
Okay, mate. Yeah, I'll get our next caller, and then we'll bring you in next time. Okay. Lovely stuff. Let's hope we get Elliot's camera working. Let's bring in Amir to the conversation. How you doing, Amir? You good? You well?
I'm good, Tom. How are you doing today? Good?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. You've obviously listened to a bit of what we talked about, but you can raise an entirely new topic if you'd like to. So tell me what you want to talk about.
Perfect. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to you. Like your videos, the 8 a.m. shows and stuff have been really helpful for me. Like during uni, getting through everything. So I do appreciate that a lot. And just going to the topic of Raya and Ramsdale, for me, honestly, Tom, it doesn't really matter. Whatever Arteta goes, I have this sense of trust in him that, like, even if he feels like, okay, I have to kind of like lie to you guys, I have to lie to the media. Well, we might not like it, but maybe in the bigger picture, in the long run, it might be very helpful for the club. So he kind of has that like, credit in the bank and that trust with me that, like, right now in the short term, it's really messy. I agree with you. It's super messy right now. But maybe in the long term, at the end of this season or maybe next season, it might look much, much better.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, that dynamic, isn't it? Because I used this example this morning. Thank you for your kind words as well. I really appreciate that. If you had a button and you could press that and one of them disappears and is replaced by an established number two, for me, I think that removal of the chaos between the two creates a situation where either of them, if they, whichever one was to stay, would be able to play at their best, because they wouldn't be under pressure. They wouldn't have all of this narrative around them either. I mean, if I gave you that choice, would you press it, or would you like to see how it plays out?
It's always that risk of if an injury happens, if an injury doesn't happen. And I'm really worried if it happens, the drop-off might be really huge. Just to mention something else, because we had Matt Turner as a number 2, and I didn't know much about him. But right when we sold him to Forest, he's not even starting for Forest right now, which is a big surprise for me. And I was like, okay, if something happens to Ramsdale, if he was going to come in, and how would things look then?
Yeah, I think the point about Turner is really interesting, because obviously you want a goalkeeper to be a number 2 that's good enough that if they have to come in, that they are good enough to play. But the reality is that is really hard. And if you look at the best teams in the world, their number 2s don't tend to be anywhere close to the top level of their starting keeper. Like you look at Liverpool, Kelleher, he's a good goalkeeper. Don't get me wrong, he's a good keeper, but he's nowhere near the level of Alisson. And if you look at Man City, Ortega, good keeper, nowhere near the level of Ederson. So it's that dynamic, I think, that we have created for ourselves. I mean, what do you think of Arteta's handling of the situation? Because I think he's probably made it worse than it needed to be.
As I'll say this first, I'm probably the biggest Mikel Arteta fan ever, and
I know, because I see you in my chat box.
and I always say this because I'm actually proud of it. Because when I was getting a lot of stick, when I was getting like a lot of abuse, and I was saying, no, I believe in this guy and stuff. And right now, when I see him doing so well, it doesn't make me a better fan or anything. We're all the same, but it just feels so good for the guy that you backed so much, and you feel I see him doing so well. But his handling of the situation, as you mentioned numerous of times, this guy deserves a Champions League at Emirates, like a Champions League game at Emirates, or maybe a couple of like against like Sheffield United and games like those. He definitely does deserve that. And another thing, like as we're in the conversation about Mikel, I want to touch on is that I feel like this season, like the refs, the VAR, they're just looking for something to like like give them a yellow card for, or just to go against them. They're even looking for all those minor and small things. I saw De Zerbi running through like on the pitch and celebrating and stuff. It's not even close.
I think that was after the game though, so it was different. I think it's that classic thing where like people have been like, as you have here, completely like fooled by the power of editing. Yeah, it's like, did you see when they've done this clip of Raya's goals being conceded, and then the camera goes to Ramsdale and he's smiling. They pan to Ramsdale at a completely different point in the game. And yet you've got all these people going, it's disgraceful that Ramsdale was smiling. It's like, it wasn't even at the same time. Like,
it wasn't even close.
And people are being completely fooled into thinking that it's one thing when it's actually another. So, yeah. But what I do think you've got to point about with De Zerbi is his comments about like disliking 80% of referees. Like how you can get a slap on the wrist for that, whereas Arteta is, and today he's actually in the hearing for the Newcastle comments he made. So we hopefully will get an answer about what the charge, if there is any, will be from that today. But yeah, and I absolutely empathise with what you said about feeling vindicated about your support and your how much you vehemently really supported Arteta and batted away critics and the haters that have come with that as well. But if you were to, because I think what people often appreciate at times is obviously some balance. I've backed Arteta a lot, but when he's worthy of criticism, I think you have to be critical. So the Raya Ramsdale thing, do you think he could have handled it better?
Definitely, yeah. The Raya and Ramsdale thing, it could have been much better. A couple more games to Ramsdale, things would have been like much better. So yeah, definitely in that aspect, he definitely needs to like be criticized. And also another thing, as you mentioned a number of times, in-game management. But this season in-game management, Tom, has been like spot on. So I think he's made like the best substitution. There was a record a while ago that have had the best impact, largely down to like Trossard has done a lot of well with that. So definitely his engaged management is getting better, but definitely with Raya and Ramsdale, he could have done much better. And just another thing, like while we're in the conversation of about Mikel, the thing is when people like argue and bring him down with like, oh, you didn't really need to like bring in Raya, you don't need to bring in Havertz. Okay, fine. Let's criticize him for that. But at the same time, when we're talking about and saying, oh, you got to pay even more for West Ham, put there like an extra 40 million, like extra 50 million. Mikel Arteta was a large part of convincing Declan Rice to actually joining Arsenal. And that's not something that I'm saying. Any like interview or podcast that Rice has done, the first thing that they ask him, what was the reason? And the thing he mentioned is the manager, the talk with the manager, this, that. So I think when we like question like Havertz, rightly so, question Raya, but let's also, when we're bigging up Rice, also mention that, you know what? Mikel played a big role in bringing him to the club.
No, I think you're fair in that. I absolutely think you're fair. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you and put a face to the name finally. Thank you for listening.
I appreciate you, Tom, and for sure I'll be back here soon.
You will, I'm sure, very soon. Thank you, Amir. Really appreciate your time.
Have a good one.
Massive thanks to Amir. Amir's been one of our longest-term listeners in the chat. Often spot him debating with other fans, and in particular Arteta's critics. So it's good to put a face to the name, as I say. Alex says, I think the goalkeepers are such a high-risk position, so confidence and consistency is very important. This whole Raya versus Ramsdale argument could have been avoided. Caesar says, my point is that he also badly handled the Saliba situation, in my opinion, but it worked out greatly. I'm just going to wait and see how it turns out. I'm going to put the trust in manager. This is interesting. A lot of people were very critical of Arteta's handling of the Saliba situation. I think that he was getting it spot on. He had to allow Saliba to be maturing over in France, and obviously previously as well with the number of loans that he had, and he wasn't yet ready for the Premier League. And when he finally brought him in, he was absolutely oven ready, for the Premier League, and we saw the benefit of that. Elliot, how you doing, my friend? You good? You well?
I'm well. You're lucky you caught me on lunch there, Tom.
Of course, always. He's always on lunch. What would you like to discuss with me today, mate?
Today, I'd like to discuss, the touchline, the ban from Mikel Arteta. I think it's hypocrisy at its best. I think the PGMOL just literally have a thing for Mikel Arteta, for embarrassing them, for calling them out on their BS, quite simply. And I've seen many a picture of him with his foot outside of the touchline, and literally being punished for that alone. And it's it's such a shame that the PGMOL have to be so petty, have to be so skullduggerous in their viewpoints just to get their point across. So, oh, you can't cross us, you can't criticize us. Here's the touchline ban, and they're just waiting, and lying in wait for him just to make a single mistake before they oust him, and they hope they did it during one of the more crucial parts of our season as we're going through right now. Now, again, I think we're singled out. I think we're victimized. I think many other managers would get away with such an infraction. As you said, De Zerbi did. Klopp does all the time, but yet when it comes to Mikel Arteta, he's public enemy number one, and it smacks of a bit of a bit of prejudice against Mikel, and I think he's just doing. I think he's just criticizing the PGMOL just for the betterment of the game, and it's a shame that he has to suffer for his clear honesty about the game and how sad it is the refereeing in the Premier
League. I agree with you. I think that Arteta does get, what's the opposite of preferential treatment, whatever that word is. It's the complete opposite of that. Like, I think that he is singled out at times. I think he is treated differently at times. I think that he has become a bit of a lightning rod for referees, and his profile and the issues he suffered, and sometimes his own behaviour, and how he's spoken at times and got frustrated. But I think he's almost like the Newcastle game. It felt like a bottling up being unleashed finally. Like, I think that Arteta has faced so many inconsistent situations. Like for Arsenal to see the Man United game with Ødegaard not fouling in that moment leading to Martinelli's goal, a situation whereby a VAR official misses a clear and obvious offside against Brentford, to then obviously go to Newcastle and have a blatant foul not recognised in the build-up for their goal. Who can blame us? At what point do you have to turn around and say, right, we're going to punish this guy because he's finally snapped after we have constantly poked him with a stick with our inconsistent decision-making? So I 100% agree with you regarding the fact that I think that Arteta has become something of a lightning rod and is treated differently. Are you fearful that this could have an impact on the title race?
Well, I think it may have an adverse benefit to us as a side going forward, because we know we can't leave a match in the hands of the referee. We have to go out. And it was proven to us in that Newcastle match, quite simply, that anything in the balance, the PGMOL is going to go against it from here on in. So we've got to win outright. But I think that'll it'll build that siege mentality within us, literally in that we have to go out there and take the Premier League. We can't be given the Premier League. We're not like a side like Man City and Liverpool, to a certain extent, Man United, where things are gifted to us. We have to take things. We've always had to take things, being an Arsenal supporter and being an Arsenal Football Club. It was never given to us. And I think this will galvanize the side, quite simply, because we now realize that the referees aren't going to do us any favors, literally, and any sort of infraction they're going to punish us. So again, it is up to us to be resolute. It's up to us to be that much more focused on the goal at hand, at the task at hand. And realize it's the old rule. You can't leave the match in the hands of the referee, because it's going to go against us at the end of the day. And we have to go out there and win outright, quite simply, because the Premier League is not going to be given to us. It's not. It's clear. The media do not like us. They do not like us being in first place.
You're in the media. I like us.
You're in the media and you like us. That's true.
Indeed.
You're sticking up for us, Tom. You're one of the few who do. But again, you look at the likes of TalkSport, you look at the likes of many journalists out there, and they don't like the.
This goes out on TalkSport, So again, I'm still backing us on TalkSport.
Oh, very good. No, you see, Tom. That's why I like you, because you're fighting the good fight, because you're one of the few of us. I think Laura Woods is another one who fights for us on the panel as well. But again, it's up to us. It really is up to us. And thank goodness Arteta's assembled a side that's allowed for us to do that. We got to get busy in the transfer window this January and bring in certain players, defender, midfielder that will help us to the finish line. But I think with the way that Arteta is going about things, he's building us for the long haul. It's just a matter for us to take care of business. We have to take care of business, people, because the PGMOL are our enemies to quote unquote, and they aren't going to do us any favors, people. They aren't going to do us any favors. But just one more thing I just want to bring up, which is the whole Raya Ramsdale deal. Arteta, he's a young manager, and he got it wrong here. I think the communication could have been a lot more clear, a lot more, honest about things, and this could have been a much more competitive fight for the number one spot. But he clearly, held a prejudicial advantage to David Raya, because Inaki, the goalkeeping coach, and Arteta and Raya are working together, in terms of bringing them forward. You can see him in his selection process. It's going Raya all the way, even though he's making huge amount of mistakes. Even and I don't think we saw it last year with Ramsdale in certain position at this time. But again, this was his first choice, and it's proven track record that Mr. Arteta, once he has his eye set on someone, he's gonna always go back and want them that much more, and there's gonna be certain prejudices about them. And what I think Arteta has to realize is that, listen, if he wants to create a meritocracy, this is not the way to go about things. It's not the way to do things. And he has got to realize that he's got to make it a fair fight. And I think with Ramsdale, he's been given stick because it has not been made a fair fight. And he's been asked to box with one hand tied behind his back, and he's a confidence keeper, quite simply. We know that. And if it's not, Arteta's got to make if there's a spot in the lineup to be up for grabs, he's got to make it so that everybody is given a chance to to make it their own. And clearly, he hasn't done it in this case. So again, if there's one criticism of Arteta is the fact that he has favorites and he plays it to the hilt.
Indeed, I think that he does have some players that are, that he favours more, and Ramsdale doesn't seem to be one of them at the moment, which I know for a lot of fans is a tough one to take. Elliot, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me, as always.
Oh, Tom, well done on the 12th Man podcast yesterday. It was I saw the I saw your exploits there, and again, it was a rough trial. It was a rough trial, but again, you held your own, and again, continued success to you, because you're doing wonderful work here on the Gooner Talk.
Thanks, mate. It's very kind of you indeed. Appreciate it. Have a good day, my friend.
You too. Off to lunch.
See you later. Massively appreciate Elliot for jumping on as always on his lunch break. It's very much appreciated. Let's join by one of my favorite callers we've had on a phone-in show, just for his energy and enthusiasm. It's Justice. How you doing, Justice?
I'm good, Tom.
I'm very good. Are you wearing a fez? Is that a fez?
No, this is I'm an African. So,
you know what it says? It stands out to me because Aaron Ramsdale's dad wears a very similar style of hat. So educate me. What is it? Tell me.
No, my dad, he's in the village. So I'm like the sister. So I always wear it.
Yeah.
In my culture. So this is a red cap. It's called a chief.
Really interesting. Oh, cool. Thank you for educating me on that. Yeah, because as I say, it stood out to me because I remember Aaron Ramsdale's dad has a very similar styled hat that he calls a fez. So it's me being completely ignorant to that. But Justice, last time you joined me, you were rather animated, let's say, about Kai Havertz, I remember. Have you come on to repent?
Yeah. When we come here to those sessions, I'm not going to lie. The past 3 games, has been that's what's going on. I don't need guys to score everything, but I just need the effort. Just the effort. Now, in showing that when he scored against picked up the ball, and you can see the aggressiveness in his face. So guys actually like I need to go for like 5 games straight, and then I'll so on. So the Kai is doing very great.
Yeah, he has improved. You know, he has got a lot better. And I think that I've enjoyed, like, and to be honest, your words on the previous show certainly made me notice more like his demeanor and the way he was acting on the field. Like his celebrations have become more energetic. Like he's more involved with things. It seems like the confidence. Yeah, his confidence is back, isn't it? Is that what you wanted to talk to me about, or did you have another topic in mind?
I want to talk about the Raya and Ramsdale situation because that has been this night, right?
Your mic is cutting out a little bit, by the way. I didn't know if it was just me, but someone in the chat box has said, I don't know if you've got like earphones or something you can use. It's like every first or second word is like a little bit quieter than the other. I don't know if there's any way of changing the microphone.
Let me see.
Have a quick look just while you do that. I'll just read out a couple of comments. Amira says, I personally would love for this to be a fair fight and make sure both keepers are still engaged, competitive, and feel appreciated. How's it going, Justice? Have you managed to find... I can hear you. It's just like it just cuts out every. Just me. That's an echo.
Can you hear me?
Have you got like earphones or anything you can use? See, that's the problem. Yeah. Okay. What we'll do is
I can join them. Bring an earphone.
Have you got a mobile phone you could join us with?
Yeah, I'll join.
Try it on your phone. I think that's the way to do it.
Okay. I'll join.
Okay. I'll join back in a second. Whilst we're waiting for Justice to go onto his phone, let's jump into Helgi, who's going to join us now quickly. Helgi, how you doing?
Well, I'm not the best. I'm sick today, but gotta come on to do the shift. And you?
No, I appreciate it, mate. I appreciate you joined us on our last phone and show as well. What topic is it that's been really on your mind with Arsenal of late?
I mean, the one that's been on my mind the most is that fear is coming up about the defensive depth. And like I was just thinking about this today. You were speaking about the fact that Zinchenko isn't a left back. He's a midfielder. And then it occurred to me we don't have a left back that's fit at the moment.
No, we have a natural one, do we?
No, but
yeah,
Kiwior, he looks a bit out of position when he's there, and maybe it'll take some time for him to adapt. But like I was looking over the fixture schedule over December, and it's like super congested, and like I can't help but worry a little bit about how we cope with that, and if Cedric has to come in at some point, or if Kiwior is gonna be able to adapt, you know.
Yeah, I think that Kiwior, I think he's got real potential. I like him. You know, I think he's confident. I think he's got a good technical ability. It's one of those where you're like, is he a left-sided centre back, or is he a left back that can, can play in the centre half style that we've seen Tomiyasu do to such a degree? And against Luton, I thought defensively there were some really positive things. By the way, I found it very amusing, the Spurs fans trying to compare the tackle that not even the tackle, but like the moment that he had where they've clipped it and they've compared it to Christian Romero's challenge against Chelsea that got him sent off, because those two instances are so different. Dale Johnson did a good breakdown of why it's different to Romero's on ESPN today, and I thought that was very good. But I think Kiwior, he's an interesting player that's not yet specified in what he is as a player. Would you use him against Villa, or would you like to see Zinchenko come back in to the team?
I would use Zinchenko simply just because we haven't seen enough of Kiwior. Like, not enough for me to be able to trust him to throw him into, like, this is like one of the most difficult games of the season so far. Like, if we look at the table, it might be the most difficult game so far. I don't know what you think, but it's they're right up there. So no, I mean Zinchenko, he's not as defensive, but I feel like he's warmer. He's been playing more and more gelled with the team, I would think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he's the right choice. If it was Tomiyasu, it was fit, I probably would be starting Tomiyasu on that left-hand side for this game. The same as I would at Anfield, as well. But
such a shame that he's out. Such a shame.
It is a huge shame that he's out.
Got it when I saw him go down. I was like, no, like I was just praying that it wasn't going to be long term, but it's a shame.
Yeah,
but
it is a shame, and I know it's going to affect him as well because when I've spoken to him after games or during those European press conferences as well, one of the key things he's always said is that he's never felt confident about like getting back from injury, and he's always felt a little bit trepidatious about getting injured again. So I know that it's going to have really frustrated him. If I could ask you for a scoreline prediction for the weekend, though, Helgi, I'm going to be mean. What are you going to go for?
I mean, I was watching the Villa City game, and I mean, they're quite good, and they got some tricky players, and I would go for 2-1. I think they'll score, but I think we'll be able to score more.
I went for 2-1 as well. Yeah, I think you're right. 2-1 or 3-2. I think is what it might be. I think there's goals. Goals are in this game. Helgi, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Let's rejoin Justice. Let's do an audio check. How you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly clear. Lovely stuff. We can get full 100% justice now rather than 50%. So, so Raya Ramsdale, what is it you want to bring up?
Yeah, for Raya Ramsdale, I know Arteta is coming from the Pep school of thought, but sometimes, Tom, Arteta have to understand that I'm not saying, to be honest and to be very fair, when Raya is in the goalpost for us, right? If Raya is in between the sticks, I have a lot more confidence. Like when the ball is going back to Raya, it's more confident for Raya to play from the back and everything. But for the sake of this team, I think Ramsdale should go back in. When we started the season, Arteta was playing Thomas Partey at right back. It wasn't working. Everybody was calling for Gabriel to come back into the team. Now, I don't know what happened during that period, but whatever Arteta was trying to do didn't work. And for the sake of peace and for the sake of a fair fight, right? Bring back Ramsdale in and tell Ramsdale, hey, Ramsdale, I'm giving you the whole of December. Prove yourself. That's going to be a fair fight. Because now all this, because to be very honest, even in the dressing room, it's going to be some kind of, if Arteta doesn't bring back Ramsdale, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a big problem because if we want to be very sincere, to be honest, I prefer Raya. I'm a Raya supporter, to be honest. But at this stage, I'm giving up for Ramsdale. Ramsdale has to come back into the team. So it should be a fair fight. So Ramsdale too to get like a run. Like Arteta bring Ramsdale and say, okay, Ramsdale, I'm giving you the whole of December. Go and prove yourself to me. I mean, that would be a fair fight. Because if we keep doing this, it's gonna be a problem.
No, I empathize with that view. For me, it's like the reason why I keep sticking with Raya is because in my head, I'm like, well, Ramsdale's going to go, like, because Arteta's not going to bring him back in. So we should probably just put the minutes into the player that he's probably going to stay, you know, and that's where I'm at with that one. Because if it was a choice between Raya and Ramsdale at the weekend, you know, if I knew that Ramsdale would get a chance, I'd be inclined to agree with you and say, bring Ramsdale in. But because I know he's not, I just think, well, we're going to have to just stick with Raya and see what happens. I agree with you as well that when you said that, like, you know, you're a big fan of Raya, so am I. Like, I think both goalkeepers are very good, but they just can't work in the same club, can they?
They can't work in the same club. And the thing is, like, if I really look, I like to look at the body language of the team, right? I don't think the players are really buying into Raya like that. Because even when Raya he ran like 16, I don't know how many kilometers he was running from the goal to meet Rice. The body language of Rice wasn't really there to me. You know, like Rice he was talking to Rice at some point, and Rice was just like facing the other way, talking to Odegaard. You know what I mean? So I feel like, for me, even some of the players are beginning to think that, okay, Ramsdale, and let's not forget, Ramsdale made some couple of mistakes last year. But if Ramsdale had a kind of a fair point. Ramsdale said the wife got a miscarriage, so we can also put that into consideration. I mean, we can have that. You know, I mean, Ramsdale has a point. At this point, I can count 4 mistakes Raya has made since he come into the team. And let's not get it twisted. Against Man City, I was vexed. With Raya. I was really vexed. So I feel like, to make it a fair fight, I'm not saying Ramsdale should come back and be the number 1. But Ramsdale should come back and have the whole of December to show us what he can do. Because our defense, let's get it very right. The defense this year is very stable. The defense this year has been very stable with Rice playing at the base. It has been very stable. So if we because to be honest, the two goalkeepers are low on confidence right now.
Do you really think there's a problem between them? Like, I don't think there's a problem between them.
Tom, let's be real. Let's be real, right? And I'm not saying this to be any racial thing or any
no, of
kind
course.
of
I'm just curious.
Yeah, but Ramsdale is going to be feeling some type of way. He's definitely. I
think he's going to feel a bit aggrieved for sure.
Yeah, he's going to be feeling some type of way because, like, let me tell you, Ramsdale brought this team to the Champions League. He hasn't had a game. He hasn't had a game in it. So, in as much as how we want to dress it, in as much as, and I love Arteta to bits, but in as much as we want to dress it, in as much as we want to make it good, Ramsdale is feeling some type of way. And in the dressing room, there must be some players who are buying into what Ramsdale is talking or feeling about. You know what I mean? So I just feel like for the sake of peace, Arteta should bring back in Ramsdale for. I don't think Arteta would do that because Arteta is a man of his words. But the pressure got to Arteta when he was playing Thomas Partey at right back. I can tell you that the pressure got to Arteta and he had to bring in back Gabriel. So if Arteta can do this, and who knows, Arteta can bring in Ramsdale and we find our groove from there. So I just feel like it's a little bit, it's not really stable in the dressing room, to be fair. I'm not trying to make it out to be it's a big of a deal.
No. I don't think you are. I think you're absolutely right in saying that there's going to be some animosity systemically, that just exists. There's going to be some envy from Ramsdale's side, some jealousy, and rightfully. But I think, we heard from obviously his dad talking on the Highbury squad, and obviously Nick was saying a lot about how, they've welcomed Raya into the Arsenal family. Aaron said he's a really, really nice guy. And I don't think there's, any animosity in that sense. And I certainly don't think that Ramsdale will be thinking that it's Raya's fault that he's not playing. I think his aggravation will be certainly toward Arteta than it will be toward Ramsdale, if you know what I mean. Because I just think that, obviously, Arteta's the one that's made the decision. Arteta's the one that's looked at what Ramsdale's done, helped Arsenal get into the Champions League and thought, no, I'm going to bring in somebody else I think that can do better. And the problem is that he's not doing any better than what Ramsdale was last season in the sense of like what we're seeing. I know that there's statistics that certainly back the distribution side of things. And even from a goalkeeping standpoint, there is as well. But you have to admit that the fan base isn't convinced. And no, I'm not fully convinced either.
I'm not convinced. I really like Raya, but I'm not really convinced, to be honest. And against the game we have on Sunday, I think we're going to beat Villa very easy. Remember when I told you? Yeah, remember remember when I told you we're gonna beat Man City? It was I told you we was gonna win Man City. This game against Villa, we're gonna win.
It wasn't easy though.
It's gonna be 3-1. It's gonna be 3-1. Arsenal's we're gonna cruise past the game. It's gonna be really, because I keep saying this. When I watched the game yesterday and I watched the Man City midfield, and I can tell you now, it's not working for Pep. You cannot play both centre backs, Akanji and Stones in the midfield. We have a proper midfielder in Declan Rice. And there was no pace in the Man City team yesterday. There was no Doku, there was no Grealish. I'll tell you what, the way they came out yesterday for Man City, they're not going to come out like that with Martinelli and Saka on the wings. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And if Konsa or I don't know what they call his name is, in Konsa or Konsa, if you're going to play at the right back for Martinelli, we're good on that. We're good. And I don't see Pau Torres and the other defender stopping. Jesus is on form.
They've been very... Pau Torres and Carlos have been quite good this season.
We're on form.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right, mate.
We're on form. We're going to have those people on toes. I'm telling you, we're on form. And we rise in this team. It just gives me an extra energy. With this guy, like when we signed Rice for one, I wasn't convinced. This guy is everywhere. He is.
Why weren't you convinced? Because you're not alone, by the way. I had in my summer comment sections, I had so many people saying it's English tax. He's not worth it. He's overrated. Why was you doubting Rice? I'm really curious.
Because like when I looked at the way West Ham play, they sit all at the back, and it was like Rice is the only name. I wasn't just like, because if you gave me Rice and Caicedo or Enzo Fernandez, I'll take Enzo Fernandez or Caicedo. But Rice doesn't only Rice. I think he does a lot behind the scenes for me because Rice is a talk. Like the way when Rice is in the pitch, I can't believe I'm going into Villa at the point where Villa is on form without Thomas Partey, and I'm this confident.
Yeah,
Yeah, Rice just brings a different energy, and I think he gives the backline so much confidence because you have to deal with that midfield before going to the backline. So I feel like with Rice in there and Odegaard and Havertz, and let's not get it twisted. There's too much of I've never watched from the beginning of this season the way I can't really differentiate if Odegaard is playing like a double pivot or at the 8. Like Arteta is doing a lot of tweaks and turns. So we are looking for ways to beat teams. And these days when we go long, you will see Havertz flicking the ball to Jesus. Like it's just so many, tweaks and turns. It's just like my only problem with the Arsenal team right now is the goalkeeper situation. That's just the problem. But with Villa, it's 3-1. It's easy. People think this game is gonna be that it's not gonna be that difficult, to be honest. It's gonna be a cool 3-1. They're gonna and
right,
if Villa comes out to play against Arsenal, we're gonna destroy them. I
love it.
We're gonna
I love the
destroy
confidence,
Villa.
mate. It's great.
We're gonna destroy them. No, I'm not worried about Villa. I'm definitely not worried about Villa. That's a short 3-1.
When I'm getting my train home and I'm getting in at 2 a.m. in the morning, which is when my train arrives on that Sunday morning, I hope that your confidence has seen us win, because otherwise I'm going to be sitting on that train for 5 hours thinking Justice told me we were going to win.
Tom,
so
easy 3-1. Thanks for bringing me on, Tom. I'll see you.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure, mate. Always is. Speak to you soon. Fantastic. Love it. Hubris at its finest, but I love it. It's great. Let's bring in our next caller, Alex. How you doing, Alex? Always a regular. How you doing? Sorry, I shocked you then. I scared you.
Yeah, you did actually. I was half expecting not to go on, but yeah, I've literally just gotten home. Hence, my hair looks awful. I've been in the rain.
Look, mate, I'm not going to discuss hair. I need it cut. It's not good. Snippy, cut. What do you want to talk about?
Well, it's sort of partly related to a couple of things that we mentioned recently, and it's about the easiest way to put it is to use Zinchenko as an example, and talk about positions of players, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of people sort of talking about how, well, Zinchenko is a bad defender or he shouldn't start because he plays left back.
Yeah.
My main issue, and this is the same across a number of positions, I think that we don't have a set left back. Teams in sport, in football specifically, because we're talking about that, there isn't a back four, and when you look at it, they're always in exactly the same position. Players are going to end up in different places. They're going to play it in different ways. So I think that we can highlight weaknesses of players, and that is obviously people's opinions, and it's their right to have those opinions on players. But I think with Zinchenko, it's really difficult to say we shouldn't play him because he's a bad defender. You look at the statistics of what we do in build-up, if you looked at a heat map of Zinchenko, how many times would you see him at left back? Probably not very often.
Yeah.
And then you could
more
look
like
at
a centre midfielder.
Yeah, more like a central midfielder. And you look at in terms of our possession stats. I mean, if we're in possession of the ball, then players are going to end up in completely different places. If we still had Kieran Tierney, I'm sure he'd end up somewhere along the left wing if you had a heat map of him when we're in possession doing what we're doing at the moment. But the benefit of having Zinchenko, and obviously when Tomiyasu plays, I love Tomiyasu. Shame about his injury, but when he plays as well, we have the benefit of Martinelli being chalk on the boots, wide on the touchline, and he's able to come inside and play that role and frees up that space. Our system, if you put it down to a very basic sense, is often to try and isolate 1v1 with our wingers against their opposition fullbacks or defenders or whoever ends up in that space. And I suppose, obviously, it's a long way around of saying it, but my point is, I don't think that we need to worry necessarily about saying, let's sign this particular player because he's a left back. I think you look at Kiwior, he was signed because he fits the profile of exactly what we need in that area of the pitch. We wanted somebody who was tall, technically good, strong, young. That's the age profile we look for more so than anything to do with his position. But I think you look at that and he can cover a number of positions. I think, yeah, I just feel that Tommy, that Zinni gets a little bit not that he shouldn't be hyped up and he shouldn't be given stick if he makes mistakes.
Yeah.
But I think
overhyped scrutiny, maybe. From the defensive side of his game. Yeah, no, I agree. While you were talking, I was just putting together a slide of 2 heat maps to play a quick game. Let me just see if I can get them up onto the screen. Here we go. Can we see those? Yes, there we go. So one of those is Alexander Zinchenko this season, and one of those is Granit Xhaka last season.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a guess? Which is which?
Is it the whole of the season?
The whole of last season for Xhaka, and the whole of this season so far for Zinni.
I think that Xhaka's one is the one on the left.
Really? I'm glad you said that, because you're wrong. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because it shows how difficult that it is to identify the difference between Zinchenko and a player that's actually playing centre midfield. So the one on the left, I think the giveaway maybe slightly is obviously you've got that little bit of heat down the bottom left-hand side of like where he is just lining up at times on that left-back slot. But how central you can see so much of that heat that is similar to Xhaka's heat map on the right, does really go to show the role that Zinchenko this season is playing has filled where Xhaka has been. And so where Havertz has played, or Trossard has played, or even sometimes Rice has played, they're not playing where Xhaka played. So when we had all that big discussion about, Havertz is coming in to replace Xhaka, he can't do what Xhaka did, we're going to miss that. Well, no, because the idea is that Zinchenko is taking on a lot of what Xhaka's doing, and that's evident by his positioning on the field that you can see here, with Zinni on the left, Xhaka on the right. And actually, the role of that left 8 is now something a lot more advanced. And so Havertz is often at times playing as a centre forward. You often see him as like a 4-4-2 at times, with Havertz being basically a second striker.
Yeah, I think the interesting part about it is, as a football, I think I can't remember who, apologise, but somebody mentioned earlier on the call show, as a football team, you have to look at ways that you have to progress and adapt. And yeah, we're not playing the same way as last season, but there's a reason for that. And, you look at, obviously 4-3 against Luton, slightly dulls my point a little bit, but defensively, we've been so much better this season.
I know exactly what you mean. I was literally writing a whole piece during that game about how aerially we'd failed in that game, and then obviously what happens at the end is Declan Rice scores a header. So I was equally as annoyed by the rhetoric of that game.
Yeah, but I think we've been a lot more structured this season, and we're trying to get control rather than having this sort of chaos of I don't know, trying to outscore teams, which I think does work. Like, it can work for you, but it's a high risk. It's a much more high risk strategy than controlling games. And you're going to go through spells in every game where you're not on top. And if you don't, then you've had an amazing game. But I think I just find it difficult. And just because a couple of people mentioned Havertz, I don't want to overstay my welcome if you've got people waiting.
No, you're fine, mate. You're fine. I'm now frantically trying to get Havertz's heat map from this season.
No, well, it's just because I've seen a couple of people mention it. I think the Havertz one is such an interesting discussion in terms of when you look at how he operates in himself. I think you've mentioned it a few times, and I'm sure lots of other people have. He's so good at his movement, his game intelligence is such a high level.
Yeah.
And
it really was at Luton. Like, that's the most intelligent I've seen him in terms of his move. Yeah.
Well, Martinelli's goal, and then for Jesus' goal, he made exactly the same run. But that's all you need to do sometimes to create space for others. And I don't think that maybe people were so focused, or sorry, I say people, that's generalizing. I think some people were so focused on end product as this entirety of, that's the only thing that we can measure someone by. But, you could look at his defensive statistics or his pressing statistics in in a situation where we were dominating games in possession, because this is one thing, obviously stats can be skewed. So if we were a team who were constantly defending, then Havertz's statistics would not be that impressive, because you'd expect everyone on the team to have inflated defensive statistics. But we are a team who dominate possession, so his statistics are not inflated. Therefore, defensively, you assume he's a very clever player. And that can be portrayed in terms of knowing where to go defensively into knowing where to go offensively. Like, people tend to have footballing brains, and that is a footballing brain. You look at the best movement of strikers, probably Edinson Cavani always springs to mind for me.
His movement's excellent. Yeah, his finishing wasn't always on point, but his movement was always very good. I've got Havertz's heat map, by the way. As you can see, it's a lot more spread. Obviously, it skews slightly to the left because that's where he starts, but you can see him popping up on the right. You can see him popping up centrally. You can see him in the box. Xhaka, where his heat for Xhaka's heat map is in the box, is on the left-hand side. But if you look at the most heat, that shading, I know it's not as intense as the other two because he's not played as many minutes as those two did during this season compared to what these two have this season. But Kai is like in the center of the box when he has movements in there. And it is that greater spread, from Kai that I think is showing the difference in his role compared to. It'll be interesting at the end of the season when we've got more data and we can compare it to Xhaka in total. But that certainly is interesting.
Yeah, and I think having that target to aim for. I mean, obviously, we don't always play in that sense of having a target man, but having someone to aim for who can potentially win a duel, or at least get it so that we can then push up the pitch further. And we love pressing teams, so having a player who's more direct source of, and I think in the Champions League it will be a really important thing. If your game plan's not going how you want it to go, say we come up against a team who are pressing so well that we can't get out, then your option is, if the teams are pushing up and pressing you, the space is in behind. So you've got Havertz who makes those intelligent runs. We've got a number of players. I mean, you see Tommy doing it again for the City goal, making that run in behind. I'm not saying that I want to see him always up there in the box, but if it leads to a goal against City, then I don't mind at all. But
no.
But I think it will be interesting having Jesus and Havertz in the team together. It would just be lovely if we could have a little bit of time where we don't have any injuries. And I think, I don't want to go into that whole conversation about who we should sign or anything, because that's could be another 20 minutes on it about that. But
if that, another hour.
But yeah, I think it's just interesting. I think at full strength, with obviously we can't say Timber would be better or worse or anything, but you look at the small sample that we've got of him, it was absolutely amazing. In terms of technically how he played, very similar to Zinchenko, but with probably defensively a more stable option due to the fact that he's played in defence for a lot longer than Zinchenko has. And Zinchenko played left wing back for City for such a long time, so people think, he's not played this. It's a new position in a sense. Not
absolutely.
He played for the Ukraine, but you think, how many times do they meet per year? Probably in a non-tournament year, maybe 12. I can't remember how many games.
And it wasn't even this role. Like, he was playing for Ukraine as basically as an attacking midfielder. So it's not the same. He is just he just fits into so many different positions on the field, and so I think we're very lucky to have Zinchenko, and I think he doesn't get as much credit for his footballing ability and his role in the team as he probably should get. And I think, I'm glad you rang in, Alex, because it's let me see those graphics. I wouldn't have thought to even look at those Zinchenko Xhaka graphics. It's made me think about that. So
I'm doing an
article idea for tomorrow already.
Well, I've mentioned I'm doing the Declan Rice project thing for my uni. So at the moment, I'm doing heat maps of Declan Rice.
Well, there you go. I'll send them over to you. You can use them.
Yeah. I quite enjoy it, but I will get off so somebody else can get on. But
no, we're ending the show, mate. You've run us to the end. We're all good.
Oh, right.
There you go.
Apologies.
Thank you, Alex. Always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend.
All right. I'll speak to you later. See you later.
Speak to you soon. Bye. Have a good one. Massive thank you to Alex for jumping on as always. Before we go, I've got a couple of things to talk about. Tomorrow's 8 a.m. show is going to be at 7:30. Okay, there's a reason for that. I start work at 8, and I don't want to give you no show, so we're going to do it half an hour earlier. So I can't tell everyone. I will be leaving warnings. I will be leaving messages on the community tab, and I'll be tweeting and stuff. Some people will arrive at 8 tomorrow, and I can only apologise. And I will apologise at the start of tomorrow's show as well. It's completely out of my control. Arteta's press conference is at 9 tomorrow, which means I'm starting at 8. So I will be doing the show at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow rather than 8, and it'll be running until I start work at 8. So apologies for the slight difference in tomorrow morning's show. But yes, I start work earlier. So if you're listening to this, you know. So if you know anyone else that watches the show, you can remind them, you can tell them. I'll be putting in the Discord as well that tomorrow's show is half an hour earlier. It's a one-off. We don't usually do this, but because of the press conference being at 9, I'm starting work at 8, so I can't usually do the show. So we'll be doing it half an hour earlier. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. It's very much appreciated. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope that continuously you enjoy yourselves and around the world of Arsenal. Tonight, we've got some footballing action, of course. Let's hope that Spurs lose and Newcastle lose and, everybody lose. I mean, even though Spurs losing does mean that West Ham win, maybe a draw. I've really come to dislike West Ham, but I think that's more so because I'm really getting affected by a lot of what their annoying fans have been saying. But that's nothing on them, and to be honest, their fan base. My mother-in-law is a West Ham fan. My dad's best mate is a West Ham fan as well. So, it's not all bad, but I have found myself becoming very frustrated with West Ham and their supporters this season, trying to force a rivalry between us that just doesn't exist, does it? It just doesn't exist. So we don't need it, but they keep trying to force it into existence. Anyway, that's enough ranting from me. I think we've had enough of those today. Do drop a like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel if you're new. And of course, as always, stay safe, stay well, and as always, again, up the Arsenal.